Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Happiness Journey with Dr. Dan podcast, where every journey is worth living. My name is Dr. Dan, and I'm your host for today's episode. I'm a bilingual neurolinguistic programming and cognitive behavior psychotherapist specializing in anger management issues for court appointed and private, marriage counseling using the method, dissociative disorders, narcissistic personality disorders, depression, anxiety, dream analysis, and also provide life, business, and retirement coaching support. I provide individual one-on-one session in both French or English and also do group setting. If you need any assistance, reach out to DMB Therapy and Coaching Services at 301-325-1550, and our website can be found on lifecoachddanamzallag.com. Today, I'm very excited to have for our 8th episode of season 21, a culinary expert tour guide in Italy, Robert Gaglio. And just like every of my past episode, I will leave it up to the guests to properly introduce themselves as no one can do a better job. Robert, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Dan, for having me on your podcast. I appreciate the opportunity. Yes, the name is Happy Journey, right? With Dr. Dan. I couldn't have been on a more happier journey than I have been on the last 12 years. It all started, I had a career in banking for 24 years, wealth management, suit and tie, all that. Lots of meetings. Um, and I met my family in Sicily in 2012. Was so endeared by them, the hospitality they gave me. My parents had been there in the 1970s, and luck would have it, I found the very family that they stayed with when they were there. We didn't know their phone numbers. I couldn't get a hold of them ahead of time, so I literally walked into town with a piece of paper with my dad's aunt's family tree. Met them, just totally a wonderful experience. Wanted to go back every year. So here I'm getting close to 50. I was on my 50th year that year, and I had my son with me. We just had a wonderful experience. So then the next thing you know, I start going back every year. I have a wonderful boss in the bank who invited me to stay with him in a villa in Tuscany. And then the idea clicked in my head, why don't I bring people I know? I'll just run a villa and bring people I know, attorneys or what have you, that I've been calling on for years as a banker. And that was the birth of Italian Culinary Tours, literally. Just one by one step after the other. Went from doing maybe 2 or 3 tours a year to last year we did over 20 tours last year.
Amazing. Oh boy.
So between that, with the relationship I've now built with that family in Sicily, I mean, I literally see them more than my American family's cousins, and it's just been such a enrichful experience and definitely a happy journey.
I could just imagine. So, your tours, when you take people to, you take them to Tuscany primarily, or you take them all over Italy?
Well, when we started with Tuscany, but since my family's from Sicily, we added in 2017 a Sicily tour. Then we added a Dolomite tour right after the pandemic finished and we were able to tour again. So the Dolomites, as you know, is part of the Prealps. It's in the north eastern part of Italy. Very German. That part was part of Austria before World War One.
Okay.
So very different. Tuscany is very different than Sicily, and the Dolomites is very different than both of those. So we try to do north, central, and south. We also have a tour in Amalfi, so we do Amalfi Coast. That's also unique. And then we do private tours too, where people come to us with their family, and we just take a blank piece of paper and write out, what they want to do. So we're able to do culinary tours throughout all of Italy, not just our standard tours.
So do they like when you add the food into it? So from every place that they go, you give prepare them the food, or is it just that you prepare them the dinner, what the normal crews would do, like every teams or whatever it is? So how does that work?
Sure, to give you an example, in Tuscany, let's take that that's a 7-night tour. We stay in a villa, not a hotel. So we have a villa that's 500 years old, a Medici property back in the day when it was built. Lovely in the middle of a vineyard, not too far from Florence, so we're pretty close to Florence. So what we do is we set up the house with a chef all week long. So you have a morning chef and you have a dinner chef in the afternoon. So that dinner chef is there every night cooking dinner. And we do a couple dinners outside the villa, but this is primarily friends of mine, a vineyard that is in a family vineyard where we do dinner at their house. Literally, we eat at their dinner table. So it's not like a commercial thing where you go and get on a bus and they take you and you have dinner. It's very intimate. So we also do the cooking classes, one or two during the week. We're not a cooking school, but we're more of like an experience where you have your chef. We go to wineries, we go to producers, cheese producers. We go to the butcher even for our barbecue. We take them to the butcher. It's so different than the United States.
Okay.
Like that butcher, that's his cow. It's from his farm, which is up in Piemonte, and we watch the cow come off the truck. He takes us in the back. He cuts us out what we would call a porterhouse steak. They call it bistecca alla Fiorentina. So it's that kind of enrichment, you know. It's not a cooking school. We do have cooking class a couple times, but we do kind of more focus on going to food producers and of course wine producers as well.
I see. Now, when it comes to the duration of the stay, is it like mostly 7 days? You have longer, or how does it? If let's say someone is traveling Italy with his family and they come across you, can they join in to be able to take this cooking class, or is it only for the people that sign up for your tour?
Yeah, well, how it works is we set up several tours throughout the month of September for in Tuscany. Um, we also plan excursions before and after us. In fact, we just got off a call with someone who's starting in Venice, going to Bologna, going to Cinque Terre, and then they're doing in the middle. They're doing our tour in Tuscany.
Okay.
So we do that, or sometimes we do it where they're not doing one of our tours. We just plan out the daily itinerary and include the different, like for instance, in Bologna, Emilia-Romagna is sort of like the food capital of Italy. That's where Parmesan cheese, prosciutto, balsamic vinegar, it all comes from that one region. So it's very well known for food. So we basically um, um, provide that experience for them.
I see. And when it comes to the people who comes and uses your service 1 year, do they have the tendency to come more than one time, or they've already had the knowledge, they've learned everything that they learned? So what's the frequency of them coming back?
Typically, our clients come to us, have already been to Italy. You know, they've done the Venice, Florence, Rome, Naples tour. They've already kind of done that. And we're more of like a slower pace, stay in a villa, in one place and do day trips. Um, so it's a more, I guess, more experienced traveler that kind of what we do, they're attracted to. We do get some people that have never been to Italy for the first time and do our tour.
Oh, okay.
But usually it's someone who's been to Italy once or even twice. Maybe they did it on a cruise. I don't know if you've ever done a cruise in the Mediterranean. You stop in these ports, you don't really get a full experience of where you're going. A
No,
cruise is a nice thing to find places you want to go back and spend more time at, I think.
absolutely, yes.
So that's typically how our guests are to
Okay,
travel with us.
excellent. So now I know obviously your passion is to go and to take them from the US to Italy. Uh, you have groups back to back, which means that once you go, let's say in January or whatever, then you stay basically the whole year and then they just meet you at the villa. Is that how it works? Or because you're not going to go back to the US every time and bring them.
No, that's a good point. They they they'll do a different tour. Like for instance, if they do the Tuscany tour, they'll come back with us and do the Sicily tour. They're not back to back; they're separate. So like Sicily's 14 days. So that's about a typical time that people go on a trip. Some people have the luxury to go for 3 weeks, but Sicily's a much longer tour. It's an island the size of let's say New Mexico. So if you're going to see all the treasures that are on Sicily, all the cultural experiences, you need 2 weeks. You can't just do that in a week. And by the way, people associate Sicily with the mafia, and I
Yes.
have to tell you,
I was about to.
it shouldn't be the first thing you think of, although it is, thanks to Scorsese and for Coppola and all the gangster movies and TV shows. Sicily has more UNESCO World Heritage Sites than any region in Italy. And Italy has the most UNESCO sites in any country. So what does that tell you? Sicily's deep, deep in cultural history and cultural experiences. So it's a wonderful place to go. And a lot of travelers don't go to Sicily. They just do Italy, the peninsula. So so it's a good question. People who do Tuscany, they can do Sicily the next year or a few years later, or the Dolomite tour, which is totally different than both of those.
So when you go and do all those tours, Robert, are you gone basically the whole year? You don't come back to the US at all, or you?
Me personally, yes. Boy, the joy, the happiness journey is true to my journey. Because my grandfather he was not an American citizen right away. He came in 1912 and didn't become a citizen until 1934. Well,
Wow.
guess what? My dad was born in 1925, which meant that I have the right to become an Italian citizen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so most travelers can't stay more than 90 days when they go to the EU, say. It's called Schengen, it's a Schengen treaty, which limits 90 days. Well, I was fortunate to have the situation where my grandfather was still an Italian, um, so I was able to get my citizenship in 2022.
Oh,
So
okay.
I'm there 6 months a year. Um, Very happy. We do tours in June. I take some free time myself in July and explore. And then I'm back at it in the fall doing the tours. So it's 6 months a year.
It's not fun. And so when the culture that you adopted in Italy, and when you come back to the US, don't you get into a culture shock kind of thing? Even though you
Yes,
work?
yes, yes. Everything's bigger in the United States. It is a culture shock when you're somewhere for 6 months and you're living a certain way. The food is just so much better. We do have avenues to get good food in the United States, but predominantly it's processed and
Yes.
you know, so the food culture is much different. Their life lives around food. They literally go home for lunch if they can for siesta. They have lunch and they take a little time off and then they go back into the office if it's a bank. If it's a bakery, they open the shop back up at 4:30 and they work till 8 o'clock at night. Much different culture. I'm a very good driver in Italy now after 12 years. Very good driver. But I'm a terrible driver in the United States because things like stop signs and red lights, they don't even have red lights. It's a suggestion, you
Yes,
know.
that's definitely.
So you can't drive like that in the United States. So that takes an
It will
adjustment.
revoke your license quite fast, definitely.
Yeah.
So, and you said that you still have family members living in
Oh yeah, very close. In fact, I've written a book about this whole journey. It's called Freedom to Wander.
okay.
And a lot of the book is so tied to that connection, that reconnection of my family to them. It's just been a beautiful experience. They literally, uh, that's my family now. Even though it's like my dad's second and third cousins, to me it's like their blood, and we just have this wonderful relationship. And they love when I come every year. I'm spoiled rotten. I wake up, I go to my cousin Maria's house for breakfast, they're always like, when can you come for dinner? When can you come for lunch? I'm very spoiled when I get to Montelepre, which is just outside of Palermo in Sicily.
So
Uh,
does your kid follow you at the traveling as much, or they have their life in the US?
I'm sorry?
Your kids, they follow you.
Oh, yeah, actually, because of the pandemic, I was going to try to bring the kids there. My son did the initial trip with me, but then as I got started with this business, I did have my daughter come 1 year, but it's not as often as I'd like. The pandemic really kind of messed things up. You know, for 2 years we couldn't travel normally, couldn't travel at all in 2020. I mean, 2021 was difficult.
Yes,
Yeah, I'm hoping this year my son's going to come with his fiance, so that'll be fun. Yeah,
definitely.
I am bringing my cousin from Grand Rapids. I'm from originally from Detroit, and Paul is probably my closest cousin of all my first cousins on my dad's side, I should say. And I'm actually bringing him. He's 64 years old, never been to Italy, and I'm bringing him to Montelepre to meet the family, which
That's
I've done with my siblings, my two sisters and brother. I've done that, and that's so wonderful because I know them so well, and they're meeting them for the first time, and it's just a great experience.
that's amazing. So what does the future hold for Italian culinary tours? I mean, are you going to increase the amount of tours as the year goes by? Are you going to get more opportunity for people to schedule with you?
Well, I'm 62 years old this December,
Okay.
so um, I don't intend to grow a big business or scale it. You know, I don't want to be a Rick Steves or something like that. I love doing what I do, and physically, I can only be in one place at one time.
Sure.
So I'm literally on those tours we do. This year we're doing 5 in Tuscany, one in Sicily, one in the Dolomites, and one in Amalfi. I mean, that's me at those tours. So I can't grow it, and you know, if I were to grow it, I couldn't physically be in places. So I'm very content with what I have.
Mhm.
We are doing private planning for people, which is nice, where they go on their own. But yeah, I think if I can continue to do what I do and just keep that personal experience, you know. People ask me a lot, like I'll do a cooking class in Sarasota, Florida, at a school, and they'll say, "Oh, would you be on the trip, or would you be on the tour?" And I say, "Yeah, I'll be there," because they like that. It's infectious. They love my passion for what I do,
Absolutely.
and that's key. So,
That's
so
that.
we'll grow a little bit, but not into some big organization.
Okay. So how can people find you, Robert? Let's say they have to schedule a trip with you or whatever it is.
ItalianCulinaryTours.com. Very simple. You could also find us on Facebook, Instagram, Italian Culinary Tours, and would love to, you know, connect if have the opportunity. The book is also available on the website. You could see a link there to get the story.
Beautiful. Well, Robert, that is all the time that we have for today's podcast. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us. And thank you again for participating and inspiring our many listeners with your incredible journey in Italy. Now, we hope that you've all enjoyed today's episode. And I'm also very excited about the many upcoming guests that we have scheduled for season 21 of the Happiness Journey podcast, filled with inspirational stories just like the one that you listened to. My name is Dr. Dan Amzallag, and you may all keep pursuing your amazing journey.